What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench podcast networking channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right. For everyone who's tuning in, we thank you for supporting Behind the Bench and subscribing to the channel and helping to make the show the best that it can be. Now, I've listened to a lot of takes, watched a lot of commentary about this very controversial and unnecessary lingo that's been spewed out there over the past week or so. And it's funny when a head coach reveals what's really going on, all the propaganda, by the nays and the says, all the extracurricular gets eliminated, where we unequivocally understand what's been taking place when it comes to the United States men's basketball team, Team USA, who has dubbed themselves Redeem Team 2.0, as they prepare for their quest to win the gold medal at the Paris Olympics that kicks off this weekend. Now, what I think is unnecessary and what's tragic about the situation is all this hyperbole and disrespect of a group of players who were asked to represent the country as professionals, not amateurs, professionals, NBA veterans who was asked to take on the call of duty to reclaim the gold medal that was lost back in 1988 when Team USA was upset, I believe, by the Soviet Union, well, known as Russia, but was officially known for a very long time as the Soviet Union. And the United States wound up having to settle for the bronze medal. And at that point, USA Basketball, led by Jerry Colangelo, who used to be the president of the Phoenix Suns during the years when they traded for Charles Barkley. I believe Barkley played for Phoenix for 4 years. And they called on NBA players to lead the march because other countries, they featured players who were full-fledged adults, and USA Basketball the committee determined that, well, if other countries are going to send their best players, we're going to send our best players. Now, for a long time, we was able to send collegiate players to get the job done. And initially, when the decision was made to feature NBA players, I was against it. And it had nothing to do with the fact that NBA players was involved, but it was more so like, what would this do to the college game over time? I'm trying to provide a balanced view here. And I believe what happened was, over time, due to some regulations that impacted prep athletes seeking scholarships at Division I programs, where there was a rule amended by the NCAA body called Prop 48 that really made it difficult for high school athletes to qualify for collegiate scholarships, where they required higher scores on college entry exam tests like the ACT, SAT, and it negatively impacted inner city youth in a way that other basketball players across the country did not have to face those challenges. See, there's always a reason why things happen. So I'm trying to ad lib here, just trying to recall what took place that started in the late '80s, and then it really carried over into the '90s. So also because of Prop 48, anybody can read up on it. It led. What eventually happened was the college game slowly began to feel the brunt of that new regulation, Prop 48. So the NBA, compromised with the governing body and allowed high school players to declare themselves eligible to be drafted right into the NBA without having to go to college. And as a result, it went from players not going to college at all, and it's becoming so rampant to where, once again, a compromise was made between the NBA and the governing body of the NCAA to curb the entry of high school players, and they brought forth the one and done rule, right? So what I'm trying to say is, initially the NBA players were called on as a response to what was beginning to happen to college players during that time, or players who were seeking to gain scholarship to Division I schools. Because it went from one of the schools that was really hurt by that was Georgetown, starting in the late 80s, early 90s, where the last truly great recruit that they had was Allen Iverson, doing, like the mid 90s, around that time. So what I'm saying is, man, sometimes you could make choices that leads to going to a last resort measure that normally wouldn't be there if you continue building on what you have. So what I'm trying to say is, for all practical purposes, if they had maintained the standard eligibility for high school players to gain scholarships going to Division I schools, more than likely the NBA or USA Basketball never would have called on NBA players to represent the country when it comes to international or Olympic competition to begin with. And I'm not trying to actually, I'm glad I'm doing this. I'm glad I'm doing this because I believe it needs to be really expounded on. So what I'm trying to say is, for all practical purposes, this could very well be the last Olympic team when it comes to men's American basketball that, going into it, you automatically think that, okay, this team is going to win gold. And it's not it's not really because, as the talking heads like to expound and say, well, the competition globally has just got that much better. No, in all actuality, basketball has been stunted in the United States. That's really what has happened, particularly when it comes to position basketball, particularly when it comes to the center position. And every time the United States have had trouble, either in the Olympics or in FIBA, or the World Championships, is because the lack of true center development. That's what happened to FIBA last year. It wasn't because those players couldn't win. It's because ultimately, as they advance, into the next round, you start to see the gap in play at that position, which turned out to be the decisive factor as to why last year's Team USA did not accomplish the goal. Okay, so I'm like ad-libbing all of this right now to get these thoughts out. So what I'm trying to say is the stuff that they're bringing up really has no bearing as to the root why the United States has to continue to exclusively rely on NBA players to put themselves in the best position to win gold. Now, remember, the last American basketball team to win gold with amateur players was in 1984, led by Bobby Knight was the head coach, led by even the head coach was a college level, Bobby Knight, led by Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullin, Wayman Tisdale, Steve Alford, Alvin Robertson. I believe Vera Fleming was on that team also. Chris Mullin, and they brought home gold as amateurs. So a lot of this really has to do with how college basketball has been stunted over time. It's not really about the pros. It's about what's been going on the collegiate level. Because the way I'm looking at it is, if the college players were able to excel in Olympic competition prior to the representation of NBA players, what would make us think that it can't happen again if college basketball is truly restored? Okay, so what I'm trying to say, Prop 48 create a situation where a Division I program, instead of having, let's say, 14 players under scholarship, it went from like 14 to say like 10. You see what I'm saying? So that's really the root of the problem. Now, I just wanted to serve it because I like giving backdrops, man. I like giving backdrops for like young basketball fans who didn't come up during that time to understand what led to Team USA to rely on professional basketball players to represent the sport in the first place. Okay. So Steve Kerr made a statement this week as to why his team was struggling out there. It had nothing to, he didn't make no reference to the level of competition per se. And this is not a knock on who they played. But he said the team lacked hustle, effort. They didn't box out. They didn't scramble for loose balls. They didn't beat their man to the spot. They didn't box out and rebound. They did not identify their defensive assignment properly, leaving too many people open out there on the court for wide open shots. That's what Steve Kerr said. And since he said that, I haven't seen nobody on these airwaves, on the TV screen, mention anything about, well, the competition is just that much greater than it was in 1992. And I keep asking myself, why do they keep focusing on the original Dream Team? They never say nothing about Dream Team 2 that followed 2 years in 1994 that featured Shaquille O'Neal, Dominique Wilkins, Mark Price, Sean Kemp, Larry Johnson, Kevin Johnson, KJ. I believe Dan Marley was on that team. And then Dream Team 3. Oh, Joe Dumars was on that team too. Joe Dumars was on Dream Team 2. Then Dream Team 3. Akeem Olajuwon, Grant Hill, Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley, Penny Hardaway, Reggie Miller, They was dominating the competition. Dream Team 2 average margin of victory is 35 points. Dream Team 3 average margin of victory is like 30 points. But they're not going to say nothing about, they're not going to make any reference to those teams because you know why? Because Michael Jordan wasn't on that team, on either one of those teams. Michael Jordan begrudgingly agreed to play in the 92 Olympics because he was just coming off back-to-back championships. But to complete the concept of the dream team, he had to be on there. But initially, he didn't want to participate. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is this is disingenuous, the conversation that's been taking place. And the reason that they're targeting Michael Jordan is because that guy is on this team. And when it comes to representing your country in a team sport, it should never be about one guy. It's supposed to be about the team. The Redeem team, one of the best developed, or one of the best selected teams since they featured NBA players for USA basketball. The Redeem team, it was well thought out. The players that they selected to the team, and you just knew they put themselves in a great position to reclaim the gold, you know. And it was a very awesome experience cheering for the Redeem team, you know. And that was that gold medal game versus Spain. I mean, it was an honor to watch that game, man. And I gave respect to both teams, you know. But what I'm trying to say is, when I watched the Redeem team, it wasn't about one guy. It was about everybody on the team. It was about Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwight Howard, Jason Kidd, Michael Redd. Everybody on that team, man, we rooted for him, man. You know, and it's sad that it's got to the point. It's almost like, see, when you trash the original Dream Team, man, well, that's really an insult to the international players who was inspired by the original Dream Team to pursue and excel in the sport of basketball. I believe it's one of the reasons why you have a country like the Sudan who went toe-to-toe with the United States a couple of days ago. Same thing with Germany. Like, wait a minute, you gonna sit there and mock the very team and the players on that team who inspired us to do this, to pursue a career in professional basketball? I'm telling you, it's deep. It's deep. And I never thought, man, you know, this is 2024. I never thought, you know, in 1992, in a million years that we'd be witnessing this type of commentary, man. And it's toxic. It's toxic. It should be, let's rally around this year's Olympic team and let's root for them to bring home the gold medal. Because I remember 4 years ago, there was a lot of talking heads who was rooting against Team USA because they didn't want to see Kevin Durant be successful because he was the best player on their team. And they didn't have nearly the talent that this year's team has. I mean, you had good players. You had a younger Jason Tatum. You know, Devin Booker was on that team. Draymond Green was on that team. Drew Holiday was on that team. But it wasn't like this team here. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like big names. You know what I'm talking about? The big dogs, as they call it. And people was rooting against Kevin Durant. And I'm like, man, is this where this stuff is headed, man? Now it's based on bias and narratives and agendas. It takes away from the spirit, the Olympic spirit. And I know this may sound corny, but it takes away from just, wow, man, let's root for these guys, man. Let's bring home the gold. Let's rally around these 12 men that's representing this country to bring home the gold medal, man. But they always got to trash anything. They've attacked Michael Jordan. They're trying to disparage every single facet of that man's career, man. And what's crazy is that was 32 years ago. They did what they had to do. Those players on the original Dream Team, at the youngest, they're in their 50s. Half of them are in their 60s. Jordan got to be in his 60s. Jordan was born in, I think, 1963. So, yeah, he over 60 now. Magic is in his 60s. Bird in his 60s. And they sitting there, man. It's almost like it's the way they comparing it. It's almost like they're active players still to this day. But like I said, man, they can't take away from what their team accomplished. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, it was a lot of pressure on them. You know what I'm saying? The first time NBA players, represented Olympic basketball for the United States. There was a lot of pressure on them, man. A lot of pressure. So don't let these talking heads fool you, because there's fans who grew up during that time, know what's up, and we're going to give it to you square biz. We're going to give it to you 100. And the fact of the matter is, man, I try to, navigate my way through all this chatter. To me, it's a turnoff. It's a turnoff. It takes away from the excitement, anticipation, especially when you love basketball, and they sit here and they're gonna trash the original Dream Team just because Michael Jordan was on there. Like I said, they're not even gonna make a reference to the Team USA of 2000. That was led by, featured Kevin Garnett, Vince Carter, Vin Baker, Gary Payton. They barely won the gold. They barely won because, they was like real arrogant and cocky about it, man. And I'm like, well, anybody technically could be beat. And that was the message Chuck Daly sent to his team, where he kind of choreographed the game to say, we could lose if we don't focus and do what we need to do. You see what I'm saying? And as Michael Jordan said, that's all we needed to hear. We was ready to go, But the team, United States of 2000, that team barely won gold. I think that gold medal game, they barely won it by like 4 points. And now, has basketball grown around the world? Yes, it has grown. But it's not like the international teams have 10 NBA players on it, right? And the NBA still features predominantly American-born players. So it shouldn't even matter. If you got this team here, they call them the Avengers, right? You got the big dogs on this team. So technically, it shouldn't even matter. See, they already cast in doubt, but at the same time, trying to suggest that this is the greatest American Olympic basketball team of all time. We shouldn't even look at it like that. We shouldn't even look at it like that, because the ultimate goal is to win gold medal. That's it. I mean, like I said, man, if it's fun-natured, man, if it's fun, it's like, man, who you think will win, man? And you be like, how cats be shooting the breeze. That's all good. But when the talking heads, when these prominent figures on these shows, man, when they kick out this nonsense and this poison, and you can tell when people are influenced by it, because you can tell by they conversation. Like, yeah, man, he watching so-and-so show, man, he got that from that guy. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, Steve Kerr, he eliminated all that noise by saying what he said. And it all came down to not the talent level. It was about his team didn't give the effort during these past two games, for whatever reason. Now, since the games officially start, I would like to think that they're gonna up the ante and they will play harder. But that's a habit. See, what I'm trying to say is, man, the original Dream Team, there were no lapses. There were no gaps. They didn't play with it was all out effort every game. They didn't take the opponent for granted. That's what I'm trying to say. They had the right attitude, and it led them to dominate the way they did throughout the entire event. Also, I believe a lot of what's going on and what's been challenging to USA basketball as a whole, not necessarily even just Olympics, but just as a whole. The superstar mentality has been severely compromised over the past 15 years. And I believe it's directly attributed to the super team era. Whereas the players who represented the United States in 1992, Jordan, Magic, Bird, Barkley, Ewing, Robinson, Malone, Stockton, Mullen, Drexler, Pippen, and Christian Laettner, they had the superstar like mentality. Like, I'm going to show you why I am who I am. I'm not going to rely on this guy to cover me. No, I'm going to be in position to make the play that I need to make the play when I'm supposed to be making the play. You see what I'm saying? And then everybody feeds off of that. They say, okay, he playing at his top level. I'm finna play at my top level. You see? But when you compromise that mentality and when you got franchise players joining forces, I think it permeates to every aspect of NBA basketball. From the Olympic Games, FIBA World Championships, the All-Star Game, you know what I'm saying? It permeates. You can see it. When you see real competition, when you see superstars out there just taking no prisoners. And I'm not saying, let me put it this way. The super team era to me, I think this is the last remnant. This is it. We're in a new era now. I believe these young superstars, naturally, you want to compete to prove that you're the best. So this is more like these past 15 years is more like an anomaly. It's more of an exception than the rule. It's been presented as normal, but it's never been normal. And therefore, that's why we've had all the chaos and trouble that has occurred over this past decade or so. But I didn't mean to go off tangent there, but there's just so many factors. But I'm glad Steve Kerr cleared all that chatter up and basically said, man, stop. We're going to stop all this nonsense, man, making all these excuses and all these narratives, man. This ain't about 1992. This ain't about 2000. This ain't about 2008, 2012, 2016. This is about right now. We're not competing against our own. We're competing against the rest of the world when it comes to this sport. So this is my take on it, man. Like I said, man, it's getting played out, man. It's getting played out. For Steve Kerr, man, I'm glad he did what he did as the head coach of this team and said what the root of the problem was. And it wasn't because of the talent per se as much as it was the effort. Sudan gave 100% effort, 150% effort. Team USA didn't. And that's why it came down to needing a go-ahead basket to win the game in the end. Whereas if they play with 100% effort, play up to their potential, it shouldn't even come down to that. So that's my take on it. And I'm going to shut this bad boy down. But we're going to see what happens. And if they fall short, no excuses. No, the 92 team, they didn't have to face this level of competition, all this jazz. Man, 1992 ain't got nothing to do with now. Nothing. Neither does 1994. Neither does 1996. The outcome is etched in stone. That's history. So, but hopefully they win the gold, man. And because after this, USA basketball gonna have some questions to answer. Because a lot of these top-notch players, as far as the big stars, the superstars of the past decade or so, they aging out and they will be retired within the next couple of years, and then you're gonna have to move forward. So, hey, let's ante up, and let's see how this is gonna end up. But until next time, this is JB for BTB Behind the Bench.